How would you like to make your first million? Today we have Jonathan Domsky joining from Chicago, and he is the founder of Untangling Coaching. And Jonathan helped you see a path to redesign your business and leadership to fit the way you think, and is a coaching high performing entrepreneurs at inflation points. So, Jonathan, tell us, what are the 5 steps you recommend entrepreneurs in order to make the first move?
Welcome to Unstoppable Podcast with Harry Sardinas, inspiring conversations with influential millionaires, investors, thought leaders, entrepreneurs who are making a massive difference with their innovative products and services, and sharing the challenges and wisdom of how they sold their first million.
It's very simple, Harry, but not easy. Step number one is to get really clear on who you are. Are you living your idea of what your life should be or someone else's? And who you are is a three-legged stool. The easiest, most accessible leg of that stool is how your life should be lived. It's your core values. When you live your life out of alignment with your core values, life just feels like a slog. It's hard. You feel like you have to rest at the end of the day with a beer or three or just flop in front of the TV. When you live your life in alignment with your core values, even if you have a high degree of intense activity, and you should, it's called a life of full engagement, life just feels effortless. The next leg of that stool is why your life should be lived. And I think similarly, when you're out of alignment with why your life should be lived, out of alignment with your purpose, even if you're doing what you love, even if you're doing what you're great at, it just feels empty. And your how and your why, they point a finger in the direction of your what. What's your genius? What were you born to do? That's step number one. Step number two, do you have a compelling vision that magnetically pulls you towards your future? There's two kinds of visions. There's a victim's vision, a negative vision. I just want it to stop being so hard. And that's fine to get started. But when all we want to do is have it not suck so much, we take all the steps, we do what we need to do, it's not so bad anymore. And so we stop those habits. It's not sustainable. It's that classic. In contrast, when we have a clear vision for where we want to go, because it's what we actually want, not less of what we don't want, but it's more of what we want. The more progress we make, the more energized we are. It's sustainable progress. That's step number two. Step number three is, well, how do you get there? What are the nuts and bolts skills? They're always important. They're never enough. If all people needed to do was listen to another podcast, read another book, nobody would ever need to hire a coach and everyone would be a millionaire. Once you know who you are, once you know where you're going, once you know how to get there, step number four is, well, what's in the way? What are all the obstacles that are in front of you? And how do we go over, around, through those in terms of relationships, constraints, not enough time, not enough money, all that sort of stuff? How do we solve those problems? And then step number five, which is what trips up successful, hardworking people more than anything else. It's not the obstacles that are in front of you, Harry. It's the obstacles that are between your ears, usually in the form of a self-limiting belief. So it always feels like it's one step forward, one step back, like you have one step on the gas, one step on the brake.
Jonathan, we want to know your story. How you become an entrepreneur on the first place? Do you have any entrepreneur in your family? How this happened?
I have a very unusual path to entrepreneurship. I've been an entrepreneur since I was 24 years old, and my entrepreneurial journey started as a love story. I had no background in business or entrepreneurship growing up. Both my parents are professionals. 100% of their friends are professionals. I didn't even know any business people. I was a junior in college before I knew that there were a million things to do in this world and that being a doctor and lawyer were only two of them. But in 1994, the week that I graduated from college, I was on a plane with a one-way ticket to China. I spent the next year and a half there, totally changed my life.
Wow.
I was expecting to have an adventure, and I did. I was expecting to perfect my Chinese. I did that too in my 20s. I spoke far more Chinese than I spoke English. I was not expecting that 3 weeks in, I'd meet the woman I'd be married to for the next 29 years, but that's what happened, Harry. And we were used to spending all of our
Oh,
time together.
wow.
It
Wow.
was an epic love story. I'm not sure this is the right podcast for it, but it's a really good one. But we were used to spending all of our time together, 23 and a half plus hours a day. And when I came back to Chicago, when she came to the US for the first time, we wanted to be able to keep doing that. We wanted to be able to go back and forth to China And it just seemed like it'd be really hard to do that with a 9 to 5 job. And in the US, just 2 weeks of vacation a year. So we decided to become entrepreneurs. And I got a job as an
Wow,
administrative.
both of you.
Yeah.
She also become an entrepreneur.
Oh, we founded our company together.
Oh wow, you have the company. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, let me ask you a little bit more about this because when I have my girlfriend, we started the company together as well, and everybody was telling me, Harry, this is gonna be hard. It's
Yeah.
too much work. I always make a joke. They say the people say, "Are you guys are together?" And we say, "Well, worse." They said that you marry. I said, I'm always say worse than marry because we live together and we work together. So
Yeah.
it's very intense. We spend a lot of time together because
Yeah.
because of the relationship, also because of work. So tell us if it really possible make this work, or is it a little bit challenging to have your partner,
Yeah.
your love partner as a business partner? Because a lot of entrepreneurs they say, no, I go there, my wife stay at home, she goes to work, I do my thing, and
Yeah.
I have a friend that lived in one of the greatest internet marketers of all time. He has all over 200 million. He lives in a mansion in North Carolina, and he always tell me, my house is too big. I only see my wife when we're gonna have dinner and lunch and everything, and after that they boom.
Yeah.
There. So tell us how this entrepreneurship, love, life partnership. Actually, is it really possible? Can you guys make it
It's
work?
certainly possible. It's not without its challenges. We became entrepreneurs because we wanted to spend time together. And for the first 2 years, there were no challenges at all because we were just working all the time. We were working 80-hour weeks. We would take off half a day once a month the first 2 years. Where the real struggles started happening were about 2 years in. When we started hiring employees, we had a little bit of time to breathe. The business had started to take off. And I would be doing something and she would look over my shoulder and she'd say, like, what's that? Why are you doing that? And then she would want to give her 2 cents. And I'd be looking over her shoulder. We literally worked in the same office too. Well, not even the same office. We lived in a studio apartment that was, doubling as an office. So I would look over her shoulder and say, "Oh, like, what are you doing?" And it was kind of frustrating when when we were in each other's business. And instead of it being a well-oiled machine where she was doing her thing, I was doing my thing, we were, butting heads, we were getting into each other's stuff. And for about 6 months, like it just wasn't fun anymore. So we look at everything that's happening in my life. Life is a curriculum perfectly designed to work out your purpose. Like whatever's happening, who is it that you need to be? What is it that you need to learn? What's the action you need to take? And after a few months of this, Harry, I realized like this is not working. We need to figure something out. And what we came up with was two very simple rules. One, if it's less than $500, we're not even going to talk about it. I mean, if you want my opinion, ask me. If I want her opinion, I'll ask her. But if she makes a decision and it's worth less than $500, this is not worth marital discord. So just, trust each other and just that one thing takes care of a lot of the frictions. And the other is she had her area of responsibility. She was in charge of product development and production. I had my area of responsibility. I was in charge of operations and sales and marketing. And if it's her area of responsibility, sure, I'll share my opinion, but if she disagrees, it's her deal. She makes the decision, and there's nothing for me to say about it. And the opposite for me. If it's operations or sales and marketing, and she doesn't like what I'm doing, I'll listen to her, but at the end of the day, I'll make a decision. So having that very clear division of responsibility and saying that if it's just small, we're not even going to talk about it, that was enough to get rid of 90% of the disagreements.
For me, you know what happened? We my partner came for me in the company,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
And then we started to go out together.
Yeah,
And I was feeling in the relationship, I'm the boss. She had to do, so I am the boss, but at the same time, right? I'm the business owner, so I can do whatever I want. I want this freedom, I want this
yeah,
lifestyle, and it was kind of unfair for me for her don't have it, right?
yeah,
And look her as an employee. So I told her, look, let's do something. You have your business, I have my one. I support you in you, so you have in your business, so you have your freedom and everything. So then if we want to spend time together,
Yeah.
if we want to spend time together, we both have the freedom, and you don't need to be need to give you the time. You
Yeah.
own your own time. You make your own sales. You build your own team. I'll support you whenever help you need.
Yeah.
I got you.
Here's two
And
more
so
things. So I'm recently remarried, and my wife just bought a new business. She'd spent her entire career in corporate life. This is her first time being an entrepreneur.
that's
And
interesting.
well, it's a little overwhelming and she needs a little help. And I have 30 years of business entrepreneurial experience. So of course she wants my help. And two things that we figured out like just in the first 2 weeks. One, it's so easy for the business just to take over your life because especially when it's new, there's just so much going on and it crowds out everything else. So after a couple weeks, I'm like, I miss my wife. Like I don't want to talk about business all the time. We need to put it into a container. So we added our first entrepreneurial system. We added a daily huddle and as many as she wants, but hour-long planning meetings. And they start on time, they end on time, and when it's over, we're done talking about business. So we're not spending our dinners, we're not in bed talking about the we put it into a container. Really important for anyone who's considering doing business with their spouse.
With my girlfriend, we never argue about the relationship. All the argument that we have is because of the businesses. I think
Doing,
this business thing is a big problem. As a relationship, as a couple, we never argue. We always happy. We go wherever we want together.
yeah,
And so when we are a couple, we are very happy
yeah,
and having dinner together and everything. Now, when we are in business mode, all the argument comes. I want to
well,
do this. You want to do this, and even
yeah,
advising her to do this. She wants to do that. And I realize I make at the beginning because I have experience as entrepreneur and she didn't give her a space to grow. I was trying to teach her. Look, you do this
yeah,
way. You do it that way. If you do it like this, you don't know what you're talking about. You don't know. So I'm trying to protect her to don't fall into the trap. That was a big mistake that I did because
yeah,
I didn't. I was stopping her growth. I was stopping for her to develop the skills as an entrepreneur, and that's why we have those arguments.
yeah.
After
We had
down
the
the
same,
line, but down the line, you know what happened? Actually, this podcast was her idea and have been
yeah,
so successful. I have over 500 millionaire. What happened is that eventually she started to learn. And now
yeah,
she started to know. She want to show me that she knows what she's talking. The whole relationship was that battle. I want to show you that I know. I want to show you that I can contribute. And I'm kind of
yeah,
stopping and stopping and stopping. And finally, I realized that, wow, maybe because I was putting so much pressure, she learned faster. She accept faster. And
yeah,
she's a spectacular entrepreneur. This idea, for example, about this podcast was her idea, was not my idea. She
yeah.
told me,
So,
you should do this. And I'm like, what? He said, you do this, it will change your life, it will change your business. We said, do it. And I'm like
so my,
resisting to it. And I finally do it because of her, to keep her happy, to more than the listen to complain everything. And the podcast has been a big success. We interviewed over 500 millionaires and
yeah,
famous. So she became really good entrepreneur,
yeah.
but it damaged the relationship.
Yeah,
Yeah.
my wife and I had a very similar issue, and it's the same whenever there's a power difference. And it could be because, you're the boss and your spouse is working for you. It could be like you just described in this case, I just have a lot more experience than she does. But even if it's just, forget about your spouse, even if it's just an employee, when you make a suggestion to someone over who sees you as, having power, they don't receive it as a suggestion. They receive it as an order. This is the way it's supposed to be. And she would come to me with a question, and I would say, well, here's what makes sense to me because I have this 30 years of experience and, it makes sense. And she would feel like she couldn't question it because not like I'm her boss or anything, like it's actually her company, but she just didn't feel like she had
Her,
the experience
her
to
opinion,
talk back.
exactly.
And I
Yeah,
was
without
thwarting,
realizing, you put it down without realizing it, and that makes a
yeah,
big impact. Actually, in business, so growth. I didn't know. We did now. If we need to do all over again, we were doing
yeah,
different. We just didn't know. And this is the
yeah,
right podcast for it because we want all the entrepreneurs to be healthy, wealthy, and happy.
yeah.
And
I was
coaching,
thwarting her growth. I was stymieing
It's,
her growth because I would just tell
yeah,
her the
me
answer.
too.
And what we came up with was, I'm just not going to tell you any answers anymore.
Mm,
You can ask me any questions. I'll help you think through it, but I'm just not going to tell you what to do because you need to make your own mistakes. Otherwise, you're never going to learn.
exactly. Yeah, and it doesn't matter how much we need to allow them a space to grow. And I get it, our point of view. We want to protect, okay? We want to
Yeah, of course.
protect. We know that it's gonna go badly. We know that that is not gonna work. But
Yeah,
we went. The reason that we know our stuff is because we have been through the same process, and like this to me, nobody tell me anything. However, it was really hard when you have someone to doesn't you
yeah,
without a coach doing it yourself is so hard. So, Jonathan, um, coming back to being an entrepreneur, well, you became an entrepreneur by accident. Me too, and most of the people in this podcast, by the way. So we all
yeah,
end up as an entrepreneur by accident. I mean, very few people actually said, "I want to do my business, and this is what I want to do." No,
yeah,
so like I was in London and I want to live in London. My English is very, very, still is after so many years. Make a lot of grammar mistakes and so on. But anyway, so I don't know. My English is not good. So I found the job as a bartender in London in a pub.
mm,
This is the only job, most job that you can get if your English is not good. And then I was making £5.25 per hour
yeah,
and I had to pay my rent. And every time that the paycheck came, like two-thirds of the salary goes to the rent. And I'm thinking, wow, I'm left with very little. So if I don't solve this rent overhead, I will never gonna have enough money. So
yeah,
I started by accident this property business where I was renting the full house and
mm,
renting the rooms individually. Now all of a sudden I'm sleeping in the living room and not paying rent. Next
yeah,
salary and I'm rich. I'm like, wow, I can keep all this money because I'm not paying rent now. And what if I do it again? So first you solve the problem for yourself, and after you uh, solve the problem for others.
yeah.
But then you design this way of right now, China, and so tell us a little bit more about your company that you having, and what is the biggest challenge that you had growing that company,
Yeah.
and how you overcome that challenge.
Sure. So for the last 6 years, I've been a business and life coach working with entrepreneurs. But the business where I learned everything I know about entrepreneurship was a company called Kidorable, fun, practical, unique children's accessories. If you've ever seen umbrellas or rain boots that look like frogs and ladybugs and stuff like that, that we distributors all over the world, UK, Spain,
Wow.
Mexico, everywhere. And we built our company on small, independent mom and pop shops. And that was great when we got started in the 90s. We would travel all over the world. We
In
traveled to
the
trade shows
90s? In the
in the
90s,
90s.
you started this?
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. Started in
Wow. When
1997.
nobody was doing, very few people was doing. In the 90s, I heard that people in China, they were riding bicycle.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, there were a
Yeah.
million more people on bikes than. So, well, I'll get to the entrepreneurial story in a second. But I went to China in 1994. And I was living in a city of 8 million people. And in November, I went to get a like a long-term residency stamp on my passport. It was stamp number 22. There were 22 foreign residents in the city of 8 million people. And
Wow. Wow.
they must have all been Korean or Japanese because I didn't see any white faces the whole time I was there unless they were in a tour bus. But like I said, we'd visit trade shows, we'd sign up some customers, but more importantly than getting customers, these independent retailers, we would sign up sales reps independent sales reps who would go and then build the business for us. And the company grew exponentially. The first year we had $40,000 in sales, zero profit. The second year we had $400,000 in sales, $100,000 profit. The year after that, it was, $1.4 million in sales, $400,000 profit. It kept growing.
Oh, wow.
And until 2009, the Great Recession, and it was also the rise of e-commerce. When we started our business, almost no one had even heard of Amazon. You know,
Absolutely no competition. You have
email
most
was
of the
barely even
market
a
for
thing.
you.
And with the Great Recession, it laid bare seismic changes in the market. The small independent retailers that we built our business on, they've been slowly going out of business for 30 years. But with the rise of Amazon and e-commerce and even just big box stores like, Target and Macy's, um, and then with the Great Recession, they were going out of business left and right. And a week didn't go by where we would get a letter from a retailer saying, like, we regret to inform you that this is our 42nd and last year in business. It was just happening all the time. And it became really clear to us that we weren't able to in a business that was built on independent mom and pop stores. There just weren't enough of them anymore. But they had gotten us to where we were. We were loyal to them. And they wanted us to be loyal to them. Like they feared e-commerce. And they would say, if you sell on Amazon, we're not going to carry your product. We would try to protect them. Like we wouldn't sell to more than one retailer in the same zip code. And we built this business around protecting a dying part of the industry. And the biggest challenge, and it took us 2 years longer to figure out than it should have been. I listened to an interview with Bill Ford. He was the CEO of Ford Motor Company. And Ford was an early investor in Zipcar, a ride sharing, car sharing company. And the interviewer asked him, like, why are you investing in ride sharing? Like, isn't that going to cannibalize your business for new cars? And Bill Ford said, it's happening whether we like it or not, so we may as well like it. And I heard that, and I'm like, oh my God, like the internet's happening whether we like it or not. We may as well like it. And then within a few months, we started selling to Amazon and as many online retailers as we could. We, tried to do justice to our long-term customers, giving them priority shipping and better pricing and tools to sell and to compete. But we just realized we can't protect them from the world. And, for businesses now that are looking at the onslaught of AI and what that's doing to their customers and to their business and are trying to stop it, good luck with that. It's happening whether you like it or not. So you may as well like it.
Yeah, the Jonathan and I, let's expand in this one because like I said, I was listening a documentary about the founder of Walmart, and they told him, "Look, your fault that these small businesses disappeared in the United States. You are responsible." And his answer was like, "Well, is the market? It's not my
Yeah.
fault. It's the client fault. Clients
Yeah.
decided to go to my solution." So the point that he's making is whether you like it or not, if it was not me, it's gonna be somebody else. But whoever come with that solution, the market will prefer that solution. Therefore, it's not my fault. It's the consumer,
You
right?
can't protect people from what's happening in the world. There's an old story. I don't think it's
Mhm.
true, but there's an old story that in the 70s, when we talked about China, in the 70s, an economist went to China and he sees hundreds of workers working with shovels building a road. And he asks the governor, why are they using shovels? Why don't you use a bulldozer? Just so much more efficient. And the governor is said to have responded, well, if we got a bulldozer, like all those people would be out of work. And the economist said, well, if the goal is to put people in work, why don't you take away their shovels and give them spoons? It's like these changes are happening. And if you protect someone from it, all it means stay poor and they're eventually going to go out of business.
So
Or you could adapt.
the
Yeah,
consumer, yeah. And Jonathan, this is my next question, and it comes to respond to change, right? We have seen big companies like go out of business, I don't
yeah,
know, Blockbuster or
sure.
Kodak,
Yeah,
just because, or respond to change, right?
yeah,
Because sometimes big companies, the structure that they have is like a big boat, it's like a big Titanic, right?
yeah,
So it's so big, so heavy that when you want to turn right, it's so slowly at the
yeah,
speed that you're going that you eventually will hit the iceberg. Whether you have other company models, like they operate like 3,000-liter boats, and then the
yeah,
CEO is in 1-liter boat on the front, and then he said, turn right, and then the whole 3,000 boats, which turn right faster. So, and even you have experienced this in your business. I have to experience actually, in fact, in my business, we have, I was doing rent to rent, renting the rooms, houses and renting the rooms individually, right? And imagine, it was 20 years ago. It was no Airbnb. It was no, all what that we have is Blackberries, right? Our
Yeah.
competitive technology advantage was that the team had Blackberry,
Yeah.
receive the email faster than anybody else. So by the
Yeah.
time that our competitor respond that email, already rented a room because we have those Blackberries and deliver the email faster.
Yeah.
Deliver the email faster, we respond faster, we book the room, we do a transition. So then when our competitors actually open the email and we reply to our clients, we have a room available, we already
Yeah.
gone through the whole process, right? And sometimes the change is so big that you need to de-escalate. It's actually what we did in our business. The industry changed so much in the last 15 years that
Yeah.
we finally couldn't compete at this stage because laws of regulations and so on. So we had to de-escalate and little by little give it back, right? And
Yeah.
and start to do so. What do you think in terms of responding to change? Sometimes you can change fast and keep adapted. But sometimes the change is so big that you have to repurpose the whole thing, the whole business model, the whole thing, and you have to take
Yeah.
what you learn. And again, what you said is sometimes it seems unfair. The market is heading one direction that if you don't cope with it, you're gonna be out of business. So tell us about
Yeah.
respond to change, how you face this, and with the people that you coaching, right? How can you help
Sure.
them in that sense also in that area,
Yeah.
which is things can be what people don't know about business is that everything can goes very well for so many years, and then the technology happens, COVID happens, anything happens, and you can go to zero very, very quickly,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Well, so the answer is that as the CEO, you're probably the last to know. It's the people who are in the front lines, your customer service reps, your salespeople, the people who are actually talking with customers. They're the ones who are seeing what's going on. They might not understand what's going on. They might not understand the trends, but they're the one who have the data. So if you're in your corner office and you're just, on your computer all day, you're never going to see it. So in our company, I love meetings. Meetings are problems are solved. Meetings are where I get to help people accomplish their goals. It's where they come in frustrated and confused. They leave with clarity and inspiration. Great meetings are not something that away from their work. Great meetings are the heart of what people do. And I would, we topped out at I led a daily customer service training meeting. I led our weekly sales training meetings. And every one of those meetings would start with two questions. Tell me your success stories and tell me your frustrations. Now, telling your success stories, that serves several purposes. One, it was just an opportunity for me to praise people. Like they were telling me they were telling me how to say they did a great job. Um, but whenever I noticed that someone innovated, that they did something interesting, I would say like, "Hey, here, are you doing that too? Like everybody should be doing that. It's a fantastic idea." And we would spread the best practices throughout the organization. Frustrations, though, that's where the real action was. And there's three kinds of frustrations. Some are it's just bad we could do. I wanted to have a picnic, but it's raining outside. Okay, nothing we could do about that one. But I'd rather they complain to me than they complain in our halls and destroyed our culture. The next kind of frustration is they just don't know how to do something. And that's easy. Just like, here's the password, here's where that information's done, like, here's the process. My favorite kind of frustration is when there's some sort of friction within the system. That, classic example, salespeople are frustrated with the office administration because they're taking too long to ship orders. And in our company, salespeople, they would take an order, they give it to, they give it to our office, and it'd be incomplete. It wouldn't have all the information. So our office people had to spend, a week sometimes, 2 weeks tracking down the customer who the salesperson just got off the phone with to find, whatever the information so we could run a credit report. And so we just got everyone in a room and said like, okay, we designed the system so a salesperson can't deliver an order until all the information's there and then we could ship same day. But your frontline people, they're hearing what's going on, hearing about product that's not moving. They're hearing about competitors. They're hearing about the frustrations. They're hearing that it's just slow out there and people aren't walking into stores. And that's where we get some of our best ideas. So my old company's main product was rainwear. And customers would complain that they had too much stock. That's what all retailers are afraid of, that they have too much stock, they're not going to be able to sell at the end of the season. And then they complain that it's raining and now they don't have enough stock. So that's something we heard from our salespeople. I wouldn't have necessarily thought about that. And we started sending automated weather reports to all of our customers. It's scheduled to rain in a week. Do you have enough stock? And that was just a little reminder for them to place an order that could get there in time so that they're going to be able to be fully stocked when it came. These are ideas that our salespeople didn't come up with the idea of the weather report, but they shared the complaint. They shared the frustration. And we were able to take that information and act on it.
Oh, wow, that's great, Jonathan. It's a great system, by the way. And, when you scale, that's the other thing, Jonathan, that you have to become a leader. And we didn't sign up for this. We signed up sign up to find a product at a good price in China, sell it wholesale to moms and pop store in United States and
Yeah.
make some money, right? That's what you sign up for. And now you realize that as you scale and you get out of that first million product market fit and you start to hire people, now you have to change. You
Yeah.
have to become yourself in a leader and uh, also someone that not only lead but also can train and coach other leaders into the organization. So,
Yeah.
and the more you do that, the more you can take out yourself of the business, which is actually make the business saleable,
When you
which is
grow, when you grow your people, they grow your company. We
uh,
train people every day.
mhm.
We role play with our people for an hour every week. We would train our customer service people on, there's only so many things that could go wrong. So let's
So,
make a
Jonathan,
list.
but you didn't sign up to be the leader. Now you need to be a leader. And how do you learn to
Yeah.
be a leader? And how you realize that, wow, now I grow and I have to be a different person than I was before if I want
Yeah.
my company to scale. And did you really like to be a leader? Because you didn't sign up for this in the first place. So tell us a little bit more about this journey.
Yeah. So there's only one thing in this world that I'm naturally good at, Harry, and that's learning. There's nothing that I've done out of the gate that I was just naturally good at it. Like I have to learn everything that I do. And when I started, I was a terrible manager. Like I was afraid of my employees. I would secretly complain about them and then just do the work myself instead of actually telling them what I wanted. And we got up to about 8 people at that point because we had strong product and just a little bit of luck. And I didn't know what the thing was, but I knew what I was doing was wrong. And I joined an organization, the EO, the Entrepreneurs Organization. I don't know if you're familiar with it. It used to be called YEO, the Young Entrepreneurs Organization. None of us are that young anymore. But EO taught me everything I know about being an entrepreneur. They put us in forum groups of about 10 other people. We meet every month for 4 hours, and we just talk about all of our issues and we share experience. No advice, just sharing experience. The power of forum is magic. And someone introduced to me this book, required reading for any entrepreneur, for any manager, The Five Dysfunctions of a Team by Pat Lencioni. And the five dysfunctions of a team are first an absence of trust. And when you don't trust people, that leads to dysfunction, which is fear of conflict. They don't trust you, so they're not going to tell you things. And when there's a fear of conflict, then there's no commitment. Like I always knew it was a stupid idea. Like we're not gonna, why would I be committed to that? When there's no commitment, there's no accountability. You can't keep me accountable to something that I've never committed to. When there's no accountability, there's inattention to results. You don't get the results you wanted. And I read that book and I thought every single one of these is fully alive. All these dysfunctions are fully alive in my company. And we're going to start with absence of trust. And one at a time, I fix the dysfunctions. And now any kind of conflict, I lean into it. I'm naturally a conflict averse person, but so I told you I got remarried last year, and I have 10 vows for my wife to my wife. And the last vow is that if any of these are not fully alive in our relationship, we're going to talk about it. we're not going to hide from it. I can't tell you how many managers I've spoken to that they complain about their employees. And I'm like, why are you telling me this? Like, talk to your employee, like, have that conversation. So just learning, read the right books, put them into action. And I became a leader by just noticing what wasn't working and then asking a friend, reading a book, just thinking, like, what's not actually working here? And experimenting, trying stuff until I figured it out. And one at a time, learning those skills, documenting them, and then training the leaders underneath me.
Yeah, and I remember that our our role become as we to be a framework to solve the problem. That if the problem gets solved, the only the problem gets solved.
Yeah, yeah,
So we will, and because we are working outside the business, not in the business, but on the business,
yeah,
is like, sometimes you see two people playing chess and you just looking at the game and you, wow, he should play this. So the game
yeah,
from outside, you can see even better, right? And as we scale, this is our role. And some entrepreneurs never detach from that. After you make the first million product market fit and you scaling up, you have to
yeah,
change as a person. And it's very difficult because you used to be an operator. You used to be Monday to Sunday, 100 hours of work. And
yeah,
now you are at home, or in the office, but you don't need to be there all the time. You only need to deal with one problem. And sometimes
yeah,
you need time off, you need traveling, you need another space to think about, like, for example, give them the weather report. I
yeah,
remember my team came to me once, Harry, we have a nightmare with the Hoovers. Imagine we have like 28, we rented with two young students, right? And each of these 28 houses, um, 28 different Hoovers, which is
yeah.
need 28 different type of bags.
Mhm.
And if the bag is not there, they don't clean. And if they don't clean, the house is dirty. And then the house is dirty, they doesn't rent, and we lose a lot of money.
Yeah,
So we decide, it was a brand in London that it called Hoover, right? And
yeah,
they were not the most for Hoover, but they use it for commercial. They have like the face, like a happy face like this, but those Hoovers is like, they are so strong that the tenant can kick them out through down the stairs and everything. They won't break.
yeah,
They won't break. They few parts, nothing, just few parts, but very good engine, British engine. And so we said, this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna throw away all the Hoovers. We're gonna have the same Hoover, and we're gonna have the same bags for all the houses. So now we're buying even the bags in bulk, which is cheaper. And all of a
yeah,
sudden, the Hoovers, they were so good that they never broke. That's the other thing.
yeah,
Sometimes the other type of Hoover broke. So
yeah.
I
Just
have
look at
to
the problems that
anticipate.
cause the, hey,
We
look at
anticipate.
problems that keep repeating and then solve
Uh-huh.
them. Develop a
Uh-huh.
system, and you never have to deal with them
Mm.
again.
We have another one, Jonathan. I remember, like, was a big frustration, like the sink gets overflow, and then big problem. Nobody can wash the plates, and the whole house is complaining, and then it's an emergency. The plumber don't show up for 2 3 days, and we have this thing. So we decided it was a product that costs one shot. That we were going every month to put it in all the houses,
Yeah,
and because we're preventing the thing, now we never had that emergency again. Because actually the
yeah,
person doing the product, it was something wrong, they will notice there and there, and we'll call them on time, and we're gonna be so bad.
yeah.
So,
Invest your proactive time in reducing your reactive activities.
but for that you need to talk to them, which is something that you were doing.
Yeah,
And I think that's why you're a great coach, because you've been coaching your team.
yeah. Invest in your
You will be
people, and they'll build
training them
business.
and coaching them. Yeah. So tell us about more about Jonathan, about how can you help people if somebody's in love with this conversation, how people can find you, how this process works.
Yeah, easiest way is my website, untangled-coaching.com. Don't forget the dash, or find me on LinkedIn. Just type in Jonathan Domsky. I'm the only one.
So I think, Jonathan, the life of the entrepreneurs is it's a roller coaster, right? It goes
Yeah,
up and down. I remember that when I had my first girlfriend, the mom was telling him, "But what kind of security you gonna have with this guy?" And she's asking me, and I'm like, well, it's a roller coaster, so there is nothing
Yeah,
that we can predict. Things go good, go bad, and the only thing, Jonathan, that I will we find with entrepreneurs, right? Sometimes is how you grow your business and how you make money, and keeping the money is two different things, right?
sure.
So you
Yeah,
have to become a good entrepreneur, but a good investor. And sometimes we see entrepreneurs out there making all the money, reinvesting in the business, making all the money, reinvesting in the business. And then COVID happened, internet comes
yeah,
along, online shopping comes, something comes. Now you have everything, all of money that you lock into this. And if this go
yeah,
down, now you go down to zero. And of your work for 10 years, 15 years, go to zero very quickly, or go low. So,
yeah,
what is your take on this? And how entrepreneurs can develop multiple streams of income, right? Um,
yeah. Well, it's very
and
common.
also invest in a property. I always said to them, look, entrepreneurs, if you're making money in your business, something that you can do, right? If you buy the right house and you rent it, and after you pay your mortgage, you have some extra money, you can
Yeah,
take that money for marketing for your own business. If for any reason you go out of business, still you have the house, right?
yeah. Well, so there's two answers to that question. One is just like you said, diversification. As entrepreneurs, we have highly concentrated wealth. Our business is usually our most valuable asset by far. So where else could you invest? Whether it's another company, real estate, something like that. But I have a friend, Mike Michalowicz. He's a fairly famous business author. He's a required reading for any entrepreneur. It's called Profit First. And the idea of Profit First is very simple. Most entrepreneurs, we finish the year and we see how much money do we have left. And that's our profit. And we take profit last. But the idea of Profit First is just to decide at the beginning of the year how much money you want to make. I want to make 10% profit. Okay, great. Every month, take 10% of your sales, put it into a different bank account, add a little bit of friction so that it's actually hard for you to get, like you have to drive across town to get it, and then run your business on the rest. And it's the theory of constraints. The easiest way to think about it is, Harry, here's a brand new tube of toothpaste. How long does it take you and your girlfriend to get through a tube of toothpaste? So how long does it take you to get through it? 4 months? Something like
Yeah,
that? All
exactly.
right. How long does it take you to get through the last 5% of a tube of toothpaste? If you're like me, you roll it up. I've even known to cut it in half so I could get a few more out. Become resourceful when there aren't enough resources. If you're running your business on 90% of sales, run your business on 90% of sales. If you want to run your
Mhm.
business on 80% of sales, run your business on 80% of sales. Take the profit first. And that's how you build real
Mhm.
wealth.
Thank you so much, Jonathan. That's really powerful, by the way. So thank you so much for being in the podcast. That's been also a pleasure for me. And for all of you following the broadcast, see you in our next episode of Unstoppable, How Brave Entrepreneur like Jonathan break the world and achieve the first million. Bye for now.
It was fun, Harry.
Follow us for more interviews with world's most influential, audacious entrepreneurs that overcame challenges and adversity, providing you with the blueprint of how they sold their first million so you can grow your business exponentially.